Peace and blessings to all. This is Fada. And I got something I want to talk about real quick. So recently I saw an interview that K Michelle did. And in that interview, she said that men are not good people. And she brought up how she heard stories of women who could be doctors and lawyers and very successful people breaking down and crying and being in a very vulnerable and broken state because of what a man did. And since she could relate and resonate with that and the stuff that she has gone through, she came on the interview saying that men are not good people. And that really got me thinking, you know what I'm saying? It really got me to meditate on that and really not react on essentially what I've heard, because usually I would be like, oh no, that's bullshit. There's just another bitter ass woman. I meditated on that and I was like, okay. She says men are not good people, and I want to see what context she's coming from, because she's obviously saying this from a place from a lot of hurt. And uh that statement in itself is toxic, to say that men are not good people, because that sets a precedent that because you were born a male, you're just automatically deemed, immoral or something of the sort. So that type of message is very dangerous, especially from someone who has sons. You don't want your sons to grow up internalizing that and having that low self-esteem as if they have a burden to carry because of dudes that don't know how to act right. You understand? But what I want to say to that is, and I'm speaking to the fellas here, is are we happy with how we're being spoken at? You know what I mean? Throughout throughout the years, it just seems like there's been this negative connotation towards the word man or manhood. We've heard the toxic masculinities. We've heard the men are trash, the Me Too movement trying to hold men accountable, that Gillette commercial that really got a lot of dudes angry because they assume that manhood is just all about being toxic and boys will be boys, and things like that society has placated on us. So I want to ask the fellas, like, do we are we happy with the fact that this stuff is coming out about us? You know, are we happy with the notion that this new attitude towards manhood is so negative upon us? And if so, then there really has to be conversations that we need to have within ourselves to change that, or at least change the narrative. And I say that knowing that it's not fair to label every man as trash and toxic and not a good person because of the things that men have gotten away with in the past. But what we have to understand is that like people are individuals. They're gonna act based upon their morals, their values, and how they see the world and the environment that they grew up in. You understand? Um, I think it's fair to say that most men who are toxic, or most men who people deem as trash, only are that way because of the indoctrination of society and what society has placated on them to feel like what a man should be. And you could go back to the 70s and 80s and see examples of that all day. Look at those movies, listen to the music of those times, and really understand where that mentality came from. It's not something that we just inherently had. It had to be taught. You know what I'm saying? It had to be indoctrinated to young boys so they grow up with it, internalize that, and act it out in a certain way. Imagery is very important when you're a young boy and you watching men who are reinforced as strong-willed and handle business. When you see that at a young age, and then you internalize what is shown to you, that is basically what you're going to project as you get older. And if you're not checked for that, then you may end up using that to hurt somebody. You understand? So I think there's just a lot of things that we need to have conversations about and really meditate about in order to bring about change and how we want to change the narrative of what manhood is. Me personally, And I know a lot of dudes are also going to agree with me when I say this. I'm not holding anything from what another man does to a woman, or what another man projects, because that's his own person. You feel me? I'm not finna hold any of that. Just because a man, hurt you, or just because a man did something to break you or whatever, does not mean that I'm going to sit here and hold, or take the blame for what he did to you. I'm not doing that. I'm my own man. I define my own manhood. I'm constantly evolving every day, and I'm constantly rewriting what it means to be a man, that applies to me. So my version of manhood is not going to look like a lot of people's version of manhood. And that's okay, because I'm my own person. I have my own experiences, and my experiences are very valid, and they shape who I am today. But to cast a blanket on manhood as if this is just a monolithic thing, we're not going to do that. And I don't think it's fair to put all of us in the same box, because the very same way you can find a lot of these dudes that don't know how to act, I could also find a lot of dudes that uh, present the example of being good, being genuine, handling your business. There's a lot of dudes like that as well. But what it seems like everyone wants to do nowadays is cherry pick the bad ones and put them up on the display as if these men are the men that represent manhood, or whatever. And I disagree with that completely. You know what I mean? Because if I have a son and he grows up looking at that, how is he supposed to feel about himself? Is the goal to place blame on those who have no power of being a man or not? They didn't choose to be male. They were just born that way. We would You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of toxic shit that goes on, and I know that there's a lot of shit that dudes do that are inherently toxic and hurt a lot of people. But to place that on everybody as if we're just a monolith that is, destined to destroy and hurt feelings and, not cry and shit like that. No. You know what I'm saying? There's men that break that mold every day. There's men that out there that are emotional. There's men out there that don't cheat. There's men out there that handle their business. There are men out there that are good fathers. So I don't understand why there is so much emphasis on bringing down the image of manhood when there were so many positive examples of manhood that people just want to ignore just for the sake of diluting their perception to justify their mentality. I find that very hypocritical, and I find that very idiotic to do that. So when K Michelle said that men are not good people, I really had a problem with that. But at the same time, I also had to humble myself to really listen to what she was saying, because she was coming from a place of pain. And as men, I feel like we need to really listen to people, no matter how um uncomfortable the conversations may be, and really listen get so we can receive what is being said to us, instead of just lashing out, and then instead of just trying to correct, just be at a head's notice. And to the men that do that, I completely understand that, because when people are talking shit about you, your first natural reaction is to defend yourself. Everybody does that. If women are on the fire, they're gonna do that too. So all this stuff coming in about men, and all this, narratives about men and how we're not good people and shit like that. Of course, there's going to be dudes to defend themselves. You understand? And we cannot be vilified for trying to defend ourselves at the same time. So when we're having these conversations, number one, it needs to be specific, and number two, it needs to be a two-way street. I'm not going to sit there and just take all of this, criticism. I'm not just going to sit there and take all of that criticism, as a lot of men are not just going to sit there and take that criticism, because the situations that most of you are in, they're valid and we hear you, but to put that on us, we're not doing that. I'm not, again, I'm not holding anything a man does. If someone husband is being unfaithful and cheating, and there's a history of that within that family, or there's a history of that within that neighborhood, or you talk to so many women that have gone through that very same thing, I'm not holding that, because I've never personally done that myself. I have morals and principles and values that I use to shape my own manhood. So when you speak to me about manhood, I'm not going off of just the negative experiences that you give to me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there are lessons to be learned from that, of course. And no one's saying that you can't relate your experiences. But at the same time, to come to me and talk about why are men like this? Why are men like that? I'm going to look at you like you dumb, because that's not me. I don't know why they do that. Why would I know why they do that? What are you trying to say about me? Are you trying to say that I co-sign that type of behavior? That's why a lot of dudes get angry when you lump us in as one monolith when a dude does something ain't shit. As if we're supposed to hold that, and as if we're supposed to correct that man, like as if he a grown ass man and he know what not to do. There's grown ass men out there that know what not to do but do it anyway because they ain't shit. What does that have to do with us as a gender? They ain't got nothing to do with me, and they ain't got nothing to do with a lot of those wholesome dudes that y'all like to ignore. So while I am sensitive to the pain that has been brought upon by dudes who ain't shit, I also have to criticize this witch hunt, or this language that's being, put on us, that we're just supposed to hold whatever these dudes do, and we're just supposed to take accountability for what another man does to another person that has nothing to do with us in the first place. There's context, there's a precedent, there were certain things that led up to that point that has nothing to do with us, but yet we're supposed to hold what the other dude did. I'm not doing that, and a lot of us are not doing that. And I might sound like a broken record as I'm saying that, but I really need to get that point across because I'm so tired of the language. You know what I mean? And I feel like us as men, if we're tired of seeing that, then we really need to drive and push a narrative that promotes positivity, that promotes handling your business, that promotes, making sure that everyone around you is safe and secure, and they can come to you and you'll be solid there as a man. Because when I think of manhood, I think of solidarity. You know what I'm saying? I think of someone who handles their business in a way that benefits everybody. I always said this: true manhood is receiving and uplifting feminine energy. So as a man, if you are not uplifting and really accepting the feminine energies around you, then what is you doing, bro? You can't reject that. You gonna die. Any man who really rejects feminine energy is gonna die. It gon' like, and I don't mean a physical death. I mean a spiritual death. Women are there to be our better halves. They're our rib. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even want to use anything biblical because that has a whole bunch of stuff on there that I disagree with. But when I think of me being with a woman, she's not someone that's behind me or that I'm the head of. That's someone who's walking right beside me. We're a tag team. If I'm going through something, she gonna go through it too. If she going through something, I'm gonna go through it too because we got each other's best interest at heart. You understand? If she has joy, she's going to include me in her joy, just like I would include her in my joy. You understand? That's what accepting feminine energy is. And I feel like the more that we reject each other, the worse it's going to get. Oh, you did this, so I'm just going to distance myself from you and everyone else. You're going to live a very lonely existence if you do that. And while that's understandable why you would want to do that, I feel like there's better ways of handling that, you know? And I feel like it is up to me to really project myself as the man that I say I am, and be true to my word, and be that example for little young boys who's going to look up to me and things like that. It is my responsibility to carry myself in a way that's positive and that doesn't hurt anybody. You understand? especially since these negative connotations about men are coming out. I want to destroy all that, and if I have to put that on my shoulders, I'm gonna do that. You know, and the weight of that is very heavy. And that's not a weight that we're all trying to carry because of some dudes that did some shit that, hurt people. I'm not going to hold that. And I'm sure a lot of other dudes are not going to hold that. Yes, there's men that rape. Yes, there's men that do sexual assault. Yes, there's men that cheat. There's men that manipulate the fuck out of women. There's men that are, just evil. But at the very same time, I also reserve the right to take all those negative experiences that I hear men do and denounce every single one of them. I'm going to denounce every single one of that, and I'm going to live according to what my manhood requires me to do. Uplift feminine energy, prioritize myself to be an example and to be a leader in my community and to the people that are around me. You understand? To empower people, to make sure everybody's solid, to make sure that I'm a shoulder to cry on, to make sure that I'm conducting myself in a way that has integrity, compassion, things like that. Those very important things that a lot of people like to overlook is what I pursue to be the man that I am today. And it's a never ending journey because I'm constantly evolving every day. I'm constantly looking at new things and there's new information that's always being presented to me. But as a man, as a self-proclaimed man who feels like he has to define his own manhood, I put the pieces of those puzzles together the way I see it, and I discard the things that I don't need that's going to hold me back as a man. So I don't want any woman coming up to me talking about, oh my God, men are trash. I don't know why he's doing this to me. Don't say nothing to me because I can't relate. I can't relate. That whole men are trash thing and why men cheat, I can't answer that because I can't relate. I'm too busy. I'm too busy projecting my own manhood, which is based on a solid foundation that I built myself. You understand? And the problem is most men have their foundations built on what society gave them as young boys. So of course, when they grow up with that, they're going to be seen as misogynistic because the society views women as a liability. You know, the way society views women nowadays, like if you really studied that, then you'll see why most men act the way they do. I don't think it's that hard to notice. And if we're going to, reverse that, and I think a lot of it has been reversed, then we just need to keep having those honest conversations. And we also need to keep that same energy instead of just lashing out because a dude done did something to you and not realizing that it didn't, that man is his own man, you know? Yeah, there's going to be a lot of men that subscribe to that very same belief. There's going to be a lot of men that do the very same shit that a lot of these ain't shit niggas do. Let's just avoid them then. All that shit about one bad apple spoils the bunch. No, it doesn't. I'm going to remove the apple. If you see the one bad apple there, then remove it. You understand? If it's deep in there, then push him out and then push him out the way. That's what we need to be doing as men. If we see a dude in the cut doing a whole bunch of dumb stuff and we not calling it out, then yeah, we complicit. But the problem is that we don't take the bad apples out. Let's take them out. They ain't got nothing to do with us. Ain't got nothing to do with me. I may sound like, real hostile when I say that, but I refuse to hold myself accountable for someone else's mess. That ain't me. And that ain't a lot of these dudes out there that tell you that ain't them. So, in conclusion to all of this, while I do sympathize with women that, come up and, they have these experiences, very negative experiences with men, I and a lot of us will not hold ourselves accountable for stuff that we don't do. You know, And that whole talk about, oh, you don't get a cookie for being a good man, you don't get a cookie for being a good father and stuff like that. But you giving cookies to the niggas that ain't shit because you stay giving them the fucking attention. Those are the men that you stay talking about, to the point where when you hear the word man or manhood, it's something negative. And then I have to hold that because no one has the foresight to look at someone else and say that, oh, okay, he's positive, he's positive, he's positive. I would never do that. I would never take a group and look at the negative and say all of you are bad and say, oh man, y'all are just not good people. You can hold men accountable. Yeah, you can call us out when we're doing bullshit. No one is saying that you don't do that. But to lump us in as one monolith is what I completely disagree with. I reject, and I will fight like hell to make sure that it's not applied to me. Especially since I have my own definition of manhood that I project myself. So any woman who knows me, any woman who watching this who knows me knows what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay. I might make mistakes here and there. I'm a human being. But to purposely do something to disenfranchise someone or to hurt someone on purpose is something that I will fight like hell to never do. You understand? So, man, we really got to look in the mirror, and then we really have to tailor ourselves to what we want to be seen as. Because I am personally tired of seeing the word man and manhood, and it's always something negative. I'm going to fight like hell to change that. If I have to hold that shit on my shoulders myself, that's what I'm going to do. I refuse to be labeled as negative simply because I'm a man. That time is over. I want y'all listening to burn that into your soul. Burn that into your soul. Cause I know a lot of dudes, the cloth that they cut on and how thorough they are, you wouldn't be able to hold it. There's some dudes out there that are very powerful. There's dudes out there that are very influential and very positive and actually bring about change to their communities that, uplifts and empowers. But every time we try to bring those men up, y'all act like they just the 1%. No, we changing that narrative now. We're gonna change that narrative now to something positive. And that's all I pretty much got to say on that. And like it just really was just sitting heavy in my spirit, and I had to let that out because I don't like the fact that the word man is just so negative as someone who considers myself a man. And the way that in the way that I handle my business, and the way that I conduct myself when it comes to public, when it comes to the women in my life, the way that I conduct myself, I hold myself in very high esteem. So I would never do anything to lower myself into the carcasses of what these people are talking about when it comes to manhood and what it associates itself with. No. So once again, this is the father. I had to just get this out. Peace and blessings to all that listen to this message. And men, we gonna change this narrative. We gonna change this narrative. All right? Peace and blessings.